Hey everybody, you're tuned into Kana's Corner, and I told you I had a very special guest coming on, and I do. Gina Biggs is with me today, and if you don't know her, she is the creator of the Red String Comics. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, hey, no problem. Looking forward to this interview and talking with people, so.
It's funny, we were talking about it in the background. I kind of wanted to wait because we were talking about your Sailor Moon site, which
Oh
you
my.
had originally started back in the day, and I'm a big Moonie, so I remember
That's
that
awesome.
site and another one. I think it was like pipsyonline.com, and that one's like I don't know what happened to that one, but I actually still go to your site for like the Japanese honorifics and whatnot. So you were telling me how like people don't actually remember it anymore.
Yeah, I've noticed, maybe if I went 5 years back, people still knew when I was at conventions, I'd mention the site and they'd know who I was. And, I mention the tour now and people are just looking at me like I'm growing an arm out of my forehead. But, I had gone nuts making it really comprehensive and trying to make sure I had every little detail accurate. It was kind of obsessive compulsive the way I dealt with that site, but I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and I still keep looking at it wanting to go back. But if only I had extra time.
Well, it definitely shows that you had a lot of commitment to that specific anime, and I'm sure it's sort of influenced, your current self as well, like the current way you write and whatnot.
Oh yeah, definitely. One of the things about Sailor Moon is that it was one of the earliest series I had watched that was, romancy and shoujo, and it's one of the things that got me writing shoujo style stories to begin with, romance. It was the fact that it had a beginning and an ending, and it wasn't a continuous will they won't they like a lot of American corporate comics. So that one, and you what to say, she really influenced me on that too. So
And now you've been doing your Red String comic for so long. Has it been, I think, 4 years now?
in May it will be 7 years.
Oh, Jesus. That takes a lot of commitment.
Yeah, I've passed 1,000 pages. I'm currently drawing chapters 39. So it's the one thing I can stay focused on, comics. Like even in school I couldn't really concentrate very well on anything except the drawing, so it kinda works out. I'll do a lot of things and go, oh, this is too hard, I give up. But, I'll sit there and plug away at the comics.
And now, when you initially started Red String, did you have it all mapped out like you do now? Because I'm pretty sure that you have every meticulous detail planned at this moment.
Well, the amazing thing is that I thought I had it all planned out, and then I was like, I created another character or something like that, and then I would add more, and then I decided, no, that's not realistic enough. I'm going to develop it this way, and it would get a little longer. And it's gotten to the point where it's going to be 8 volumes. I just published volume 5, and I'm finishing up volume 6 right now. And I'm reworking some of the details. It's still pretty much all the same thing, but I'm fleshing things out here and there that I've decided need more. And I'm afraid it might end up even another volume longer. Not that that would be a bad thing, but it just keeps growing as I go, and it's hopefully doesn't get boring as I go. I'm trying to make sure that I cover all the bases and get all the questions answered when the story does eventually end.
Were you kind of amazed that something that you worked on for so long has gotten so much sort of publicity and fan praise?
Well, I'm really flattered and happy it has. When I started it originally, it was to try and get people to read my print comics. Um, I put it online hoping people would read what I was doing online and then check out my other stuff. And it turned out that Red String actually took off, and I kind of left those other comics kind of behind. Um, it definitely surprised me, and it's just really cool that it has, though. I'm definitely not going to complain. I enjoy working on it. I really love writing the characters, so.
And that's just pretty neat because you've also extended it into an audio drama. And is there anything else in the future that sort of will extend the series?
In terms of extending the series, I've been doing some of my little mini comics that are like adult takes on some of the scenes that I've kept PG in the story, the official story. And while they would be considered unofficially official, they do continue scenes, and along those lines, I might like to do side stories that aren't adult but just kind of are tangential, and they answer background stories of other characters that just kind of would make the regular storyline lose too much focus to really get in on them.
Now,
But,
I I'm sort of curious because I know your fans guess a lot as to what's coming next. Do they ever get it? And on your side of the world, you're kind of like, ah, dang.
sometimes they do. Sometimes they guess right. Sometimes they'll look at a character without even just one panel, and they guess the entire plot line of it. I'm like, he didn't even say anything. How is that possible? He walked into a room. That's it. And then I go, okay, well, apparently that if they guess it that right on, I realize that I might have to like tweak things to make it a little less obvious. And I think that's one of the fun things about writing a webcomic when you get all that feedback is that it helps you kind of see possibly what you're doing that could be done better. I'm not saying that, you know, the readers are making me change it to what they'd like to see, or I'm changing it to spite them. It just lets me call the focus on what they're seeing is very easy to read from the story, and what might be more fun and surprising for them when they read it. And it has ended up making it a fuller experience for the readers, because a lot of times they are surprised and like the twists that they end up finding in the story.
Now, how do you plan, each particular chapter? I would assume there's a lot that goes into it.
Oh my. Let's see. Well, you know, a lot of times when I'm mapping out a story, I will write a long summary of what's happening, and I'll keep adding little bits here, moving things around, and then after I get the idea down, I break it down and decide where those things have to end and what will make a good full story for that chapter. You know, sometimes I try and find related or partially related to whatever the chapter title is. And from there I go and script out all the dialogue and what I want to happen from that point. But sometimes even that, I mean, chapter 39, I wrote it all out and then wrote chapter 40, decided chapter 40 had to be split in two, so I could flesh something out in the story, and ended up with an extra chapter taking an entire 4 or 5 pages out of chapter 39 and moving them somewhere else because it didn't work. So it's usually up to the last little bit that I'm still editing things until it goes online.
Well, that's kind of interesting, actually, because I always was under the assumption that you had the master plan and we were just all waiting and the tension is killing us.
I do have the master plan, but sometimes I like to rework exactly how I'm going to play it out for everybody. You know, it's still on the same path I've decided it's going to be on, but the few minor details and the order in which they happen sometimes I realize would be better if it was moved a couple pages later or just saved for the next chapter. So it's still the master plan. I am the puppeteer, but I definitely try and make sure that if I see something's wrong, I'm going to sit there and fix it and not just lazily just throw it up and go, no, this is what I had planned. That's it. There's no room for improvement.
And now, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just mumbling at that point, saying, you know, it's a bit again with the OCD, trying to make sure I'm really dedicated to the story and doing what I can to make sure it's as best I possibly can, you know.
Oh, no, I understand. And your art has grown, throughout the years since chapter 1 till now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I did let's see, an art meme, I guess they're called, and it was a self-improvement, and I used red string as my examples. And I went from the first year of the comic in 2003, and when I looked back at chapter 1's art to now, I couldn't even believe it was the same art. It was, especially in I think it was last year before, I took a whole year of figure drawing classes, and the leap you see in volume 4 to volume 5, and then volume 5 to volume 6 art is insane. The improvements I made in that time.
And now, What do you think has been the one thing you've improved the most?
Generally just the characters aren't nearly as stiff, and I've gotten a little better with changing up poses to make them more natural. I mean, at the time I used to think, no, they look natural, they look good, but I I realized that they look a lot better when I look at them side by side. And I've really, really been forcing myself to add backgrounds more and more as much as possible to the chapters now. I mean, I always tried to fit them in, but I relied on screen tones a lot, and I realized that if I put more backgrounds in, you're just going to have a fuller experience if you get to see what's around them as well.
Well, very cool. We're going to take a very short break, but when we come back, we'll talk about even more Red Strings and Strawberry Comics. So keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan, everything you want to hear and nothing you. Ever wonder what's going on in the anime world? Check out 918 The Fan every weekday for the newest iStock. We'll fill you in on everything you need to know in 3 minutes or less, only on 918thefan.com. Hey, you're tuned into Kana's Corner, and I'm sorry, we were just having so much fun on our break that we just didn't want to include you. Just wanted to say that there. And I am still here with Gina Biggs, and we were talking about her Red String comic. I actually was a little bit curious and wanted to ask you about Strawberry Comics.
Oh, okay. Well, Strawberry Comics started out as an attempt for me to publish other girls, other women in the comic industry, their comics, and kind of make it as a women in comics sort of focus. And when WowIO was up and paying people, I had the money to actually, do printings for them and kind of get their names out there. And when WowIO tanked and I didn't have any money, we ended up becoming more of a collective. So we kind of all cross promote and try and each help the other get their name out there and all that sort of thing. And I still try and guide them with, the 10 years experience I have in working in comics. I'm still learning myself, but as I do, I try and share that knowledge with them as well.
And now, is there any, initiation process, or how do you guys find new members?
Well, currently I haven't been looking for any new members because I'm trying to decide how I'm going to put the site together as a collective and cross promote. But when I do, it'll just be, we want stories focusing on love and romance to be pretty much our focus on what we're doing, and not much else as far as I know. Oh, and be female. I've been called out on that a couple times, saying it's sexist to have it focus only on letting females participate. But the comic industry is such a male-dominated field that I thought it was kind of like a nice idea to bring some focus to women who have a lot of talent and just aren't being recognized.
Well, it's kind of in the same vein as, I guess you could say, groups like Clamp, in a way.
I guess I'm not a big Clamp fan, but they're cool. I love their art. Stories don't catch me, but they write for males anyway. They're usually published in shonen magazines. But in Japan it's a lot different because there's so many women making it in the manga industry there. There's just as many females as there are male authors and artists. So it's very different than over here in America, I think.
I'd have to agree with that a little bit. And, you throw a woman on the internet and it's like, oh my God, boobs.
Yeah. But that's another thing that inspired me to really push for creating comics, is reading manga by women and going, wow, they can do it. It's possible. And from then on, I got a lot more serious and started writing the stories I wanted to write rather than just, you know, mutants and stuff like that, and trying to think, oh, someday I'm gonna have to try and work for one of these companies and write these type of stories in comics. And I started writing romance, which is what I really like to read and write. So
Now, do you have a plan for a story after Red String, or is it
uh,
sort of like you're going to take a short break?
Oh no, I've got plenty of ideas. I'm flipping between three different ones that I'm kind of developing and trying to decide which one I will eventually go with. Two of them are fantasy stories. Another one is another high school romance that would be set in America, because pretty much any other story I have isn't set in Japan. Um, it was just, Japanese culture really interests me, so I wanted to write about it. And one of the things I always say is that, what is it, Leiji Matsumoto, he didn't go to space to write Galaxy Express. So, as long as you do your research and all that, it really doesn't matter where you write about, as long as you're trying your best to write what you're learning and knowing about. So,
Oh, no,
but
I'd have to agree. It sort of
yeah.
involves the people reading, it gives them the illusion, you could say.
hmm And, by no means am I an expert, and I know that there are things that are inaccurate with red string, but I'm trying my best to make things as accurate as possible and still be accessible to all readers. And I'm hoping I've also started trying to develop like a continuation of Red String, which would be, a few years down the line with a focus of just a couple of the characters carried over, and then from there, have a new cast along with them, finishing up, tying up a bunch of storylines, letting those characters go off wherever into the world, and bringing the focus back onto just a few characters.
Well, as long as it has a happy ending, that's all I care about. I'm a
I like
sucker for those happy endings.
I like happy endings too, and I'm hoping the characters all find their, happiness somewhere, no matter what happens one way or the other. I mean, I know, but I have to say it like that because otherwise I think I give things away if I, you know, either
Yeah,
way,
we don't want
I
to
just,
pressure you to do that.
yeah, no. But I always just say I hope for the best for the characters and hope they all find happiness one way or another.
Now, in terms of what's coming up next, you said you had a few conventions that you were going to.
Yeah, I'm going to MomoCon at the end of this month. What is it? March 20th and the 21st in at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And I'll be a featured panelist at Animazement. I'll be holding a red string discussion panel, which I'm hoping anybody who's a fan will come and chat with me. That I've had a lot of fun doing those, and making a living at comics, which is always a fun panel to talk with people about. I'll be bumming a table with somebody for Otakon, and I'll be a guest at SubasaCon in Huntington, West Virginia, late in October. So,
Now, actually, now that I remember, I'm pretty sure Chiaka Shakamoto is going to Animazement.
yes, she's going to be there, and so is Chiho Saito, which has got me basically just dancing around like a maniac. Um, while Sakamoto is awesome, I have nothing of hers that I could have signed. Whereas Chiho Saito, I've got her Japanese. It hasn't been translated yet, but it's called First Girl, and it's another one by the lady who created Utena, which I'm a big fan of as well. So,
I do love that series. I have the mangas, but I can never actually sit down and watch the anime. I just never have time.
oh no, I love the anime of that. The series, the movie, I did not really care for. I Everything from the way they redesigned the characters to the story that they changed. But I had the same reaction to the Escaflowne movie. I was hoping for a continuation of the story, and they just rewrote the series for a movie, and
Yeah, that's kind of a habit in Japan. I know what you're saying.
it kind of bummed me out. But you know, pretty animation just didn't interest me really.
Now, where else can our listeners sort of find you on the internet and stalk you in a figurative sense,
Oh,
not a literal sense?
well, I've got them all linked at near the top of the red string page, but I have a Twitter account. I have a live journal and I have a DeviantArt, and sometimes I do YouTube video blogs. I have a Facebook, and people keep following me there, but I'm there once in a great while, and I hardly ever say anything there. If you want any actual substance, go to any of the other ones.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into the new social age, and I'm sorry, Twitter beats out Facebook with like a stick. That's all.
Yeah, I really enjoy Twitter. I like just being able to it's made me more competitive in my drawing to get stuff done because I see the other people I follow are all kind of using it as a work log as well. And so they'll be like, okay, I finished this page and I finished inking this. And I'm like, oh, well, no, I got to get more work done so I can post that I've done work. And it gets me moving. So,
Well, that's one way for motivation.
I mean, recently with winter, I've been kind of trying really hard to keep up. The motivation level is terrible. I'm just all I want to do is eat and sleep and watch TV and keep warm. I don't. I lived in Florida for 20 years, South Florida. So it's always been like, in the 70s in the wintertime. And I'm up here in Atlanta, which you wouldn't think is that bad, but it's getting down to the 20s at night here, and I'm freezing. It's just, I'm not reacting well to the winter blues. I'm trying, but it's amazing what a difference that makes after 20 years of conditioning of warm weather.
Yeah,
So,
I'm in the desert. I'm in Vegas, so
so
there is no cold here. There just isn't. There's dust in your eye. That's about.
yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to tell our listeners out there about the comic or anything that you have coming up?
Oh wow. Let's see. Well, right now I'm still running the fan art contest. It's a Valentine's and White Day contest, and you just draw your favorite pairing. Well, draw. Some people have done construction paper and little origami folds, anything creative. And there's cool prizes like I'm giving away original comic pages from Red String as the main prize. And you know, all artists love fan art, so it's always a good thing to see. Let's see. Other than that, Volume 5 just came out, and the My Sweet Girl adult comic came out. Uh, I'm also working for later this year. I'm going to be putting together a site for adult comics created by females.
That'll be
And
interesting, actually.
yeah, it's the few people I've asked so far, the other comic artists I know who have shown interest have all been jumping at the bit when I've mentioned it. They're like, "Yes, totally. I definitely want to be involved." So I'm thinking it's an area that's kind of neglected because one of the things I like to do when I'm writing the adult comics is not just write it for smut's sake. I like to have like a story involved that makes me just hold my chest and go, "Oh, that's so romantic," you know.
No, I'm totally the same way.
I I want substance to my porn. I want story to go along with it. I want that emotional attachment that's going to make me really just wow, this is so beautiful. Oh, makes me so happy. Um yeah, I was watching what was it? The Absolute Boyfriend Japanese drama the past couple days and I just had that ache in my chest from the story and I was just so happy to have watched it. So
Oh, I remember that manga. That was a cute one.
yeah, the manga and then they did a live action drama
Was it?
and
Is it any good so far? It sounds like
uh,
it is.
I watched the whole thing in 2 days, so I went nuts. It was I normally don't like Japanese dramas all that much because they're overacted and kind of bizarre and they always rewrite things in a funny way, but Absolute Boyfriend was really well done. I couldn't stop watching it and the characters are just so cute and sweet. So, yeah.
Well, that's very cool. And now I was wondering before we let you go, because the hour is almost done, would you participate in a 91.8 The Fan Tradition?
I don't know what that is, but I suppose I could.
Yes, we actually ask it on the spot, sort of for the bloopers and the funny stuff. But
Okay.
we ask everyone who comes on, even if they're not a voice actor, if they would be willing to do a bump for us.
Okay. What?
And we were just wondering if you could say, and I can write it down for you so you're not so
Oh
if
yeah.
if you could say, my name is insert here. I do this, insert here, and you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan.
Okay, yeah, if you give me a little note with that, I can read that out, no problem.
Yes. I am, insert here. I love doing this on air because the bloopers are great. I do this, insert here. And you are tuned into 91.8 The Fan. Da, 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 da. So there you
Okay,
go.
I am insert here, and I do this, and you are tuned in. No, here we go. I am Gina Biggs. I do Red String, which you can find at redstring.strawberrycomics.com, and you are tuned into 91.8 The Fan.
Yay!
Woo!
and you didn't even have to do a double take. It's awesome.
I know. Is that disappointing? I mean, I know you wanted
Oh
bloopers.
no, it's okay. The voice actors actually end up doing the most bloopers for whatever reason. Yes.
Oh my. Well, that's fun to know.
And is there anything else you want to say to our listeners out there before we part ways?
Well, I would say rock on and love long.
Well, I think that is very good advice. And thank you once again for joining our show today.
Oh, no problem. I had lots of fun.
Well, that's the best part of it. And
Yeah.
and everybody out there, make sure to stay tuned to 91.8 The Fan. As I said earlier, we have a big announcement at 2. Big announcement. Keep it tuned to your favorite station.